Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Scale podcast. And today I have a very special guest for you, who is Vlad from Modulo Stranger. Hello, Vlad. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm really good, and thank you for inviting me. And I'm
Mhm,
looking forward to this conversation.
mhm. Perfect. So, most people that are watching right now probably know you from a lot of your popular Enscape videos. But I want to get started from way back when you actually started doing YouTube. So it was around July 2020. What pushed you to actually start doing YouTube content, and what impact has it had in your career as of now?
Phew. So going back, um, basically, I was teaching students like live here in Romania, and a lot of my renders that I posted online and I was doing for clients got a lot of attention. So I thought, let me try to do something more international. So not just local, trying to reach to a broader audience. And that's
Mhm,
how I started. It was just as a test to see how it would go. I was filming with my phone with a camera that couldn't record video, and I did all kinds of self-made stuff, bad lighting, and just to try it out, and I really liked it, and the response was pretty good. So
mhm,
I got into it little by little.
mhm. Yeah, perfect. I mean, some of your videos, as I'm seeing right now, do have your YouTube channel opened in another screen, have hit over 200,000 views, over 100,000 views, and obviously they're very popular in the Enscape community. But I was wondering, how has YouTube been as a platform for you in terms of marketing your work? Has it actually led you to new opportunities with potential clients, or is it more on to just more connections with the actual community?
Well, I think it's both. I think it's both because I had some clients that came to me from YouTube, uh, but I think the more important aspect is the community you build in time, and sharing your views, your profession, and information and stuff like that. It wasn't really a marketing plan for me, so it was just sharing my knowledge, and because again I was teaching
Mhm.
here students, so I
Yeah,
really enjoy that.
yeah. And how do you find it different in terms of teaching like live and with YouTube? And which one do you feel has more impact in terms of actually? Um, well, obviously, YouTube probably has a broader spectrum of people that you can impact. But how do you compare the results of your viewers with real life students that you have? I mean, I'm calling them real life, but I mean not virtual because
Yeah.
all the viewers are from real life in that sense.
Well, it's different. I mean, it's a different dynamic when you're in a big classroom or auditorium and you're speaking. It's a different vibe,
Mhm,
let's say, and a different energy. Um,
mhm,
and YouTube is just more, I mean, for me, it's more calming. So I just set up my lights, my camera, I do a little script or main ideas that I would like to talk about, and I talk about my work. So it's
mhm.
very relaxing, but
Yeah.
it's very different. So it's more energizing to do a live class or a live audience. And,
Mhm.
you know, YouTube is more calming in that way.
Yeah, 100%. So I was wondering, for how long have you been doing 3D visualization? As I said, you've been posting videos for 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. But for how long have you been doing this in? I mean, in the backside or like the background, 3D visualization, renders, and all of other architecture related work.
Okay. The sound is a little bit lagging, but I kind of got the question. So
Hmm.
um, I'm basically I started architecture school, so I'm an
Hmm.
architect, uh,
Hmm.
and I was back in 2004. I started architecture school, and then basically the first 2 years we were just drawing. So drawing plans, drawing by
Hmm.
hand, drawing perspectives, drawing. cross sections and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
nobody taught us anything about uh, CAD or computer aided design. And from our second year, so about 2006, uh, we started working uh, in ArchiCAD, but nobody uh, at the university taught us to do rendering, but they would
Mhm.
expect it from us. So that was kind
Mhm.
of weird.
Yeah.
And I asked around, and there were no classes, nothing. I actually don't remember if YouTube was around, but not
Mhm.
you couldn't find anything related to architectural rendering, visualization, 3D or
Yeah.
anything. So there were no books, nothing. So I started reading some articles and trying some educational software. So I'm basically self-taught, and I went
Mhm.
through a lot of softwares. I started with Cinema 4D, then
Okay.
3ds Max, and then I landed on SketchUp, which fit perfectly for my workflow, and I've been using it since then. And actually,
Mhm.
the first render engine that I found online, and I had some information about it, was Maxwell Render. I don't know if you
Okay.
know it
Yeah.
or remember it. It's still
Mhm.
around, but I haven't used it since
Mhm.
then. So I'm
Mhm.
self-taught. So about 2006, I started rendering, and all of my colleagues that didn't know how to do it, they kind of asked me if I could put together a class to teach them. So this was 2008, I think.
Mhm.
So since then, just little by
Yeah.
little rendering for my own projects, and then I started rendering for
Yeah.
other people or other companies, and it just moved
Mhm.
that way because, well,
Yeah.
I
Perfect.
liked it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of. I mean, it's almost the same in that sense. I I had more resources available when I started learning rendering, but I'm also kind of taught from online videos, from blogs, and all of that. But I was wondering, how did you transition from starting and doing renders for your own projects into actually offering rendering services for other architects and other companies? And what are the challenges starting as a freelancer in that sense?
Well, I was lucky because, as I said, I was in architecture school, so the networking part was already there. So my first
Hmm.
clients were my teachers and my colleagues.
Yeah.
So it kind of
Okay.
moved like that because we had classes where local architects would come teach us, and they would see the
Hmm.
results, and then they would contact me like, "Hey, we have this project. Could you help us with the renders? Could you come in? Could you take a look?"
Hmm.
And that's why I think the biggest challenge for somebody starting is the networking part. I mean, sure, you have to have a good portfolio, and you have to uh, know
Hmm.
how to render, and you know your craft and your skills, but the networking, in my opinion, was the part that I already
Uh,
had in that environment. So that helped a lot,
mhm.
and that's how I got started with my first clients.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I ask this questions to a lot of people on how they actually transitioned from, only doing renderings for their own projects into doing renders for other people. And it's always, I mean, 90% of the time, it's networking. And a lot of people still are underestimating the power of the word of mouth as a marketing skill these days because how popular social media is. And like, don't get me wrong, social media these days can get you a good amount of clients and a lot of experience. But obviously, I still think that word of mouth is very powerful in that sense. So let's move forward a little bit on how you actually found out Enscape and how long have you been using it and how has your journey been with it so far?
Okay, so as I was saying, I started in Maxwell Render way back,
Hmm.
and then V-Ray for SketchUp appeared before it was under Chaos Group. It was a company called ASG Viz, something like that. So
Okay.
I they contacted me to do some testing for the first V-Rays that appeared in
Hmm.
SketchUp. I'm just going to talk freely because I don't. want to put down any software or anything, but I'm just going to explain how I
Yeah,
got to
100%.
Enscape.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no
I
worries.
didn't.
Mhm.
I was investing a lot in hardware. So at the local stores here, they knew me that whenever a new GPU would come out, I would be there. A new processor would come out, I would be there to buy it, to test
Yeah,
it. And
yeah.
I just felt like, I mean, the first renders, uh, you had to leave your computer overnight using
Hmm.
Maxwell or V-Ray or whatever the case was.
Hmm.
3 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours per render,
Yeah.
and then uh, you know no matter how much money I put in my computer or computers and trying to make a little render farm, it still was too
Hmm.
much time. So the I switched from CPU rendering to GPU rendering, and Enscape, I think, came out in 2018, maybe, if I remember correctly.
I think it was a little earlier, but that's when it kind of got more traction. So.
Yeah, so it became more popular, and I love SketchUp for modeling and for my work. So I always
Hmm.
wanted something that was very well integrated into SketchUp, so you didn't have to export your scene to a third party program, and
Yeah.
then work from there, come back, change something, and do that. So I really liked
Hmm.
Enscape being like very integrated into SketchUp, and
Hmm.
it's so fast. I mean,
Yeah.
I work with I work from home, and I work at a an office downtown, and I work with a company that does advertising. So they work in Keyshot and 3ds Max,
Mhm.
and they envy me so much because I can
Yeah.
do 20 renders, 4K animation in half a day. So it's amazing from that
100%.
point of view. And I always wanted to get to try a program or a software when it starts and kind of push the limits,
Hmm.
to push it as far as I can get it to go. So I loved the uh, interactive aspect with
Hmm.
Enscape. You can't get that with anything else, in my experience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the same reason for me, and the main reason why I use it. I think it has the best quality to time ratio, as I like to call it. So you get the best quality output from the minimum amount of input, in that sense. But I myself, at least, sometimes feel like I'm missing out on the quality of 3ds Max and Corona Render. What about you? Do you actually feel like, I mean, Corona Render or V-Ray, it doesn't really matter. I'm just saying like that whole 3ds Max space. Do you actually feel like not learning 3ds Max or not having it as sharper tool in the workflow actually leaves you behind in terms of competition, or have you felt that until now?
uh, I felt it sometimes in conversations with other 3D artists, because
Mm-hmm.
they, and again, the people I work with, uh,
Mm-hmm.
they use 3ds Max and Corona, and uh, we have some conversation. Then can SketchUp do this? Can 3ds Max do that? Can you do this? And it, I feel sometimes like, uh, on a lower level, but um,
Hey, my
I
bad. I
don't
think
really do what they
cut
do.
off.
So for me, for my workflow, it fits perfectly. I can work fast. I can do basically whatever I want to do in this sense. So uh, to kind of compensate, I work with other softwares for rendering. So that's why on my YouTube channel I have Thea Render and Enscape. So when I want to have that, quality look for
Mhm.
my close-ups and for my renders, or for an animation, I use Thea Render. And
Okay,
of
perfect.
course, I work.
You were.
Sorry.
Mhm. Yeah, continue. Feel free.
No, I was saying that I work with different softwares depending on the project. So I don't know, for animations,
Mhm.
sometimes I used Lumion or D5,
Mhm.
for product design, Keyshot. So
Okay.
it depends, but Enscape has taken over, Enscape and Thea. So when I have time and I have the, you know, a nice project that I want to do, like very realistic renders, then I use Thea render. If I have my, you know, my bulk projects, then I use Enscape. And as you said, you have a little amount of input, but the you know, the good thing about Enscape is that it gives me time to kind of tweak everything the way I want it,
Hmm.
so I don't have to worry about render time. So I can stay,
Yeah.
you know, a few days just to get the right color or get the right lighting or
And
get
then
the
the
right.
reflection doesn't come out right, and you have to start the render all over again.
Yeah, I mean that's a big problem. I mean, we can talk about the problems and the you know,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
downsides of
Actually,
Enscape.
yeah, I was actually just going to talk about what do you think are the main issues that Enscape should be tackling, or actually, what are some features that Enscape is missing compared to other rendering engines? You mentioned Thea Render, and I myself haven't used Thea Render as of now, but I've used other GPU renders like Twinmotion, Lumion, DeFi Render, and all that other stuff. So, what do you think Enscape is lacking as of now in terms of comparing to other software?
Okay, so basically Thea render is like V-Ray and Corona, so it's in that uh, kind
Okay.
position. But Enscape being a real-time engine, I mean, all real-time engines have problems with transparency and reflection.
Yeah.
So if Enscape could work on the glass material, would be amazing, because glass just, you know, it's not so good. I don't want to say it sucks, but it sucks badly.
Hmm.
And then reflections. Somebody even asked me like yesterday on YouTube, like, can you do a tutorial about reflections? And I'm like, you know, I could, but it's not going to be nice. I mean, it's you have to do a lot of tricks or Photoshop it, or, you know,
Hmm.
it reflections are not great in Enscape. I mean, mirror and clean
Yeah.
reflection, 100% reflections. And glass. I mean, if you do a glass close up, or even
Hmm.
like this with water in it or something like this, you
Yeah.
can't, it just doesn't work. So
Hmm.
and also the velvet material, I mean the fall off material, that is non-existent, you know, in
Yeah.
it has some
That's
drawbacks
good.
in Enscape, but
Yeah.
if you know how to work around them and kind of trick the software, and then you can get pretty decent
Mhm.
images and videos.
Yeah. I myself would say that all of these are 100% exactly. I 100% agree with you. Like I myself am really missing out on the feature with animated people and animated
Oh yeah.
assets, because a lot of the time there's clients that ask for this all the time, and then you cannot do it with Enscape. You have to transition to Lumion or something else. And I know the Enscape community has been screaming out this for so many years, but it is not. As what I can see right now, it is not in the plans. And then also multi map usage for like bump maps, displacement maps, normal maps, and all of that, which isn't being able to do that all in one material with Enscape. And yeah, I mean, all this other stuff that you mentioned as well. So I was just gonna segue. I mean, you mentioned that Enscape is fast, but nowadays we're having even a faster solution in terms of rendering that isn't 100% usable in the industry. But I believe that one day is going to get there. So, what do you think about AI, and how do you think it's going to affect the 3D rendering industry?
Wow. Yeah. uh, I was recently at in Madrid at the 3D Symposium, the
Hmm.
conferences, and this subject came up, and they asked all of the people who spoke there about it. Now, personally, I don't think it's going to take anyone's job as a 3D renderer. Uh,
Hmm.
I think we have to use it in our workflow at some point and learn the skill of AI to generate, I don't know, maybe seamless materials, or generate geometry at some point, or, you know, to use it in our
Hmm.
workflow. I think it's going to be interesting, but, you know, you still need the human input to tweak. So you could do storyboarding, or you know, the initial phases in AI, but,
Hmm.
you know, I'm not really qualified to talk because I don't
Yeah.
really use it. I maybe use I don't know if it's an actual AI, but Topaz AI, the program to kind of slow down my videos or upscale them to 4K or
Hmm.
stuff like that, or
Hmm. Yeah.
noise, so just simple, basic stuff. But
Hmm.
I don't know what the future holds. I think at some point there will be, uh, like, like you have organic food and then you have processed food. So I think like a premium
Yeah.
image should say made by a human being, and
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. 100%. Yeah.
then the
Um,
AI would be processed food like a hamburger. So
yeah. 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 I definitely see. I haven't thought in that perspective, and I definitely see it possible. I myself have a feeling that a
sorry,
lot
you
of the
definitely
architects,
see.
I definitely see that as possible. Like the actual, like human-made 3D renders will be more valuable and more premium in that sense. However, I think that a lot of architects, uh, even now, don't need very premium and super realistic renders, and I think a lot of people will not be able to provide mediocre renders and kind of low tier. I think that kind of aspect of 3D visualization will need to adapt to the actual transition of the industry. But as far as high quality and like upper tier, top tier 3D visualizers, I think they definitely don't need to be worried about this. At least this is what I think. I'm not considering myself any of those. I'm just think that this is how it will kind of play out after AI gets even more used in the industry. But yeah, I think your opinion on that is very interesting, and I definitely feel like some of these softwares, like I mean, Enscape and all of the other ones that we mentioned, are kind of left behind because they need to do more research and development in this area. But other than that, I think as of now, Enscape has definitely an upper hand, especially in interior renderings when it comes to GPU renders.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, what kind of rendering engines have you used other than Theorender and Enscape? And what do you think is going to be the one that will eventually lead the GPU? I mean, Theorender is not a GPU render, but
Oh, it is. It's a
oh, it is.
hybrid. It's a hybrid, so it has like four render
Oh,
engines, and that's
okay.
why, I mean, under my desk I have like a mining workstation that I put like
Hmm.
eight
Oh, okay.
GPUs in it, and it's amazing.
Hmm.
You can do in 1 minute or under a minute, 4K or
Oh, that's
8K
perfect.
renders. So it's really
That's very
nice.
interesting. I haven't seen Thea render a lot online, except for your channel. Like, what do you think? Why do you think it's not as popular, at least from what I've seen?
I don't know the actual, business plan of the company, but
Mhm.
as
Yeah.
I said, I really like to get like softwares that are not so famous and kind of try them out. And
Hmm.
for me, I mean, um, I don't know if I should say this, but I don't work in V-Ray anymore. I don't work in 3ds Max anymore. I don't do that
Hmm.
because Thea has kind of taken over that aspect, and
Okay.
Enscape. So I use Enscape and Thea kind of like people in Blender would use Cycles and Eevee. So
Hmm.
it's
Okay.
something like that. And I lost my thought.
I mean, it's totally fine. I was just gonna ask
Oh, what
previously.
you said? What other render engines I used?
Yeah, I mean, I myself have seen a big rise in Twinmotion in the recent month.
Yeah.
Have you actually had the chance to test that out, and where do you think it stands in terms of comparing with other software?
Yes. So I worked with Lumion a lot, and as I was
Hmm.
teaching, a lot of students were coming in with MacBooks. So
Hmm.
Lumion doesn't work on Mac, so Twinmotion does. So we switched
Yeah.
to Twinmotion and we played with that. And as you said, they're really great for architects who don't need like a premium, high quality, uh, animation or rendering,
Mhm.
and it's really good for that thing. And as you said, it has animated props and moving people and cars, and you can do a lot
Mhm.
of interesting stuff, and more um, like building developers and
Mhm.
in construction and what's it called, retail construction, they use that for promoting their projects. So I see a lot
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
animations, a new neighborhood of big buildings, parks and stuff, and they kind of do a low quality animation
Same.
to promote it. But
Yeah.
another program that they actually reached out to me a few months ago, D5 Render,
Yeah.
and they
Same.
want
Same with me.
yeah, they wanted me. I mean, they were pushing a little bit for me to do a tutorial, and I told them I don't really use it, but if I
Mm-hmm.
do, I will do something. So I started a little bit, but I don't do a lot of animations like that. So it's very rare
Mm-hmm.
for me to do, uh, you know, that kind of a presentation with people moving.
Yeah.
And I like in Enscape, I like the animated trees and the fact that
Mm-hmm.
you have moving shadows. So that's more interesting to me than, or I have
Yeah. Yeah.
more projects like that than, a fly through a city. And
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't do
Yeah.
it. And I told them it didn't fit my workflow, and then they send a lot more emails to ask me why. So I mean, D5 and Lumion and Twinmotion for me are kind of in the same place. So
Mm-hmm.
depending on which one you like, you can try them out. I just don't like, as I said, the third party, exporting to another.
Yeah.
Uh, I you know I
Yeah. I
get
mean,
used
yeah,
to it
it's a
if
bit
I
of a hassle.
yeah, you could adapt to it if your project and that's where you want to go, but I
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do that right now.
Yeah, it is the same with me. And you obviously see Enscape kind of in the top, like compared to the software, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
100%.
again,
I mean,
it's like a lot of people can do fast renders in Enscape, but if you
hmm
come from a place of you know CPU standard, usual, normal rendering like V-Ray, Corona, and you've gone through setting up every little thing, so you kind of have that background, then you can use it, let's say,
hmm
wisely, because it's very fast.
yeah,
And someone
uh-huh.
who's
Yeah,
done, I don't know, interior design or architecture or product design, they have that background, and then they can use it to generate fast images, because a fast image isn't necessarily a good image. So it's, you need that
yeah.
human value in what you do.
hmm Yeah,
And
I
that's
definitely
all.
agree. And you just mentioned like the architecture background and all of that. I was gonna ask you because there's a lot of people, at least in this kind of position, where they start architecture school. I mean, they even finish architecture school, and then they kind of move on to 3D visualization, and they're kind of stuck in it either by choice or not by choice. Like for me, sometimes renders do get boring. I'm gonna be honest with you. Not all the time, but there's some projects where I feel like I definitely want to move on to just doing like design projects and all of that. So I was just gonna ask if someone is a 3D visualizer and they want to get into doing actual design work as an architect, what are the steps you think they have to take to actually do that transition, and what is the skill set that they can take with them from 3D renders into the actual industry?
Okay, so I think the first, uh, I mean, the transition, it should be easy. If they
Mhm,
are an architecture or architecture student that has that background, but kind of got
mhm,
stuck in just 3D renderings.
mhm,
I mean, some people like that, and as you said, you get bored of rendering, and I
mhm,
that happens to me too. So I kind of want to do different stuff that are in the same field of design
mhm,
and creation. So uh, you have to kind of shift from being just a visualizer to being an image consultant. So
mhm,
it's a kind of getting into the design aspect, but um, not fully. So kind of transition from just rendering an image. So a client comes and said, I need this image, make me 3 renderings from these angles, and this is the budget.
mhm,
So this is like the lower level or the entry level in visualization. So you have to move,
mhm,
in my opinion, you have to move from there to consulting, to saying,
mhm,
I see your point. May I suggest, these angles? if you do close-ups, you'll kind of get the people involved in kind of scanning and understanding the image or the space instead of just one wide angle render of a huge penthouse or whatever. So you kind of have to go towards the consultancy part to kind of help them in their business. So if someone wants to sell a penthouse, then you come up with arguments and with ideas of better images, because, and you fill in the gap, because
Hmm.
these look more premium, or you need to invest in buying 3D models because the quality of the models will result in better images, and kind of
Hmm.
consult with
Yeah.
them in the design aspect little by little. And at the same
Hmm.
time, what I did is I did my own projects virtually. So I take a week off or 2 weeks off, where I become the client, and I say, I don't know, I want to do a house, and I'll do my own
Hmm.
design, my own planning, and my own renderings and presentations, and then I upload it,
Hmm.
on YouTube or on my
Yeah.
website or whatever. Or social media. So I kind of have these projects where I'm the client and I do what I want, which is
Hmm.
something that you can't do in architecture. I can't build my own house, or you know multiple houses whenever and however I want. So I want to
Yeah.
develop that skill and make it public. So I'm
Yeah.
a lot of renders that I put on social media are my own projects,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
not a lot of them are realized, but it's my kind of creative process, and I want to put it out there
Practicing
and
and all of
practice
that.
and
I mean,
study at the same time. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely a very good approach into it. Now, I did put out a poll just like last week on what the main challenges of 3D visualizers are these days, and most of them had the issue of trying to find clients online, or either trying to choose the right software, or maybe even not having the right idea of what hardware they actually need to do 3D renders. So, can you just touch briefly on some of these challenges, and how do you think 3D visualizers can overcome them these days?
Well, it's funny you ask, because a friend of mine who is a 3D visualizer called me yesterday, and he said, I don't have clients. What should I do? What can I do? And we talked about it. And the idea was that if you've used all your tools, so your networking, and you reached out to clients, you sent
Hmm.
emails, and you did all of that, the groundwork, and nothing came
Hmm.
up. uh, well, we talked about it, and he said maybe I should get a job, get hired at a
Yeah.
visualizing firm, or a design
Hmm.
firm, or an architecture firm. So uh, if you do that, if you're trying to get a job, I mean, everybody likes their freedom, and I love working as a freelancer, but I also was employed at a design company, and there are benefits in doing that. Like, I'm going to get a job, a 9 to 5, in a
Hmm.
creative space, whatever that space may be. So for me, it helped because, again, networking increased from there, because you have contact with other creatives and clients, and
Yeah.
then you see what softwares are used and how the workflow is. For a limited time, you can, I did it for a year or two, and then I quit, because I wanted to
Hmm.
pursue my own things. But whenever you're in a rut like that, a lot of people, and me including, uh, you kind of get desperate for clients, and you accept any job. So you kind of put yourself down, and you
Hmm.
say, to be honest, I need the money. So
Yeah.
I'm going to accept that shitty job. I'm going to accept that horrible design of a building, and render it, and I won't put it in my CV, or I won't put it in my. But I think you should.
I think we're all guilty of that. I mean, it
Yeah,
happens a lot of the
yeah. I
time.
mean, and it's normal, and it's not something to be
Yeah.
ashamed of or blame anyone. I just need the money, and I'll. I'll do the rendering. But if I can kind of uh, push myself and be in another type of environment, instead of, I don't know, accepting uh, small projects on LinkedIn or something like that, which I also did. uh,
Hmm.
Go get a job, go in your city, find a design company or an architecture company that might need your services, and either collaborate or get employed for a period of time
Yeah.
and learn, you know, because, and it's different. You can learn at home, you can get books, you can watch
Yeah.
tutorials, you can buy classes, you can learn at home. But the social aspect of being, close other people who create, and maybe, older than you, who have more experience, and kind of, being like a sponge and
Hmm.
absorbing what they have to say and looking at how they work, and you know that helped me a lot. So try to be
Yeah.
surrounded by people who are good at what they do in their field, and you kind of learn from them and try to apply it in your own skill set. So
100%. I mean, there's definitely a lot of room, and there's not enough conversations online regarding the business side of 3D rendering and the struggle that a lot of 3D visualizers go through, especially in countries that are not well established. I mean, the rates are quite low,
yeah,
and you are kind of forced to do a lot of work in return for a little amount of payment. But I definitely understand what you're saying. I myself haven't gotten any like work experience in terms of another design as of now. But I see a lot of benefits into that because there's a lot of like a culture shift right now that everyone wants to be a freelancer. Everyone wants to be like have the freedom, which don't get me wrong, it's nice, and I mean, I'm thankful for the opportunities and all of that. But I think one of the upper sides is, at least for me, I want to see how a company is structured, how the hierarchy actually moves, how the instructions are given, how to collaborate more with other people. Because honestly, those things, you can save yourself a lot of time by not doing the errors and actually
yeah.
just learning from how other companies are doing them, and then you can apply it to your own company or your own business whenever the opportunity arises. And I 100% agree with you.
Again,
So
you just reminded me of
mhm,
something. It's nothing wrong with being a freelancer, but it doesn't mean you have to be alone. You know, because if you don't
mhm,
have those people around you to talk to kind of bounce ideas off of, you're still alone in your
mhm,
room with a computer. So you can be five freelancers or three who get together in a common space and work together. So that can work too,
yeah,
because that
yeah.
aspect, I think it's very important.
100%. I do have kind of the similar setting in the office that we're in right now, and I do find a lot of benefits, not only socializing and bouncing off ideas, but it is also the way that you can just kind of ask for feedback,
Hmm.
which obviously, even if someone is at a lower level in 3D rendering or kind of a starter, there's a lot of things that you can't notice in the first time with your own eye, and then when someone comes with a fresh eye, they can immediately point something out, and then you kind of say like, how didn't I get that
Yeah.
until now? And I think that's very, very valuable.
Yeah, that happened to me. Like, the chair is floating. Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So for the last question, I'm just wondering what is new and what is there to come for Modulus Ranger in terms of YouTube, in terms of content, and what is your like long term goal or like purpose with the YouTube channel that you have right now?
Okay, so as I said, I started very, as a hobby. Let's see how it goes. Let's see what happens. But mm, the let's say the motivation behind it was to share and reach other people, because I like to teach. So
Yeah.
the idea mainly was to create uh, like a class or a workshop, or
Hmm.
um, something to give to other people and to teach. But I didn't have time, because you need to work. So for the future, I want to be more involved and kind of uh, do more. Um, interactive stuff like you're doing right now. That's why, congratulations. This is what I want to do at some point, to kind of
Thank
interact with people,
you.
build uh, a class. People have been asking me to do a Thea class and an Enscape class, but being a little bit of a perfectionist, I don't think I'm there yet. So I wanted to do something really useful, and
Mhm.
that people get a lot of benefit from. And basically,
Yep.
the idea
I
is to
would.
be more active on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna touch on. You mentioned doing a class, and I have uploaded, like, I have put out my Enscape program for about 4 months, and I was just postponing it a lot of time. I had the plan to do it for a long amount of time,
Yeah,
but then I did what you just actually suggested people to do when they want to practice architecture. So I said, these 2 weeks, I'm not going to do anything else. I'm just going to record the actual course. And those for those 2 weeks, I was recording 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day,
yeah.
and then I also obviously had an editor who was cutting parts out and making it all together. And by the time 2 weeks have gone by, I already finished the course, and definitely a lot of people would find your course interesting and would benefit. I mean, classes would benefit a lot from it, and you should definitely see the opportunity into that.
Thank you, thank you.
But
That's my plan. So
yeah, 100%. But thank you very much for actually coming on the podcast. I really appreciate your time, and I think there's a lot of value that people can take from this conversation we had here. Um, Feel free to say any final words to anyone who is actually watching, and any advice you might have for future theory visualization and all that.
okay, thank you, thank you. It was really great, really fun, and I'm glad to meet you. And again, congratulations for your podcast and uh,
Thank you.
your YouTube channel and everything you do. And my advice for people who want to get into rendering, or who want to improve their rendering skills, is to practice a lot. And also, the main tip I give to everyone is to look for photo references when you're working. Don't look at
Mhm.
other people's renders. Just look at the real world. Look at photography, interior design, architecture photography, and see what you like, and try to mimic that into your work and renders. That little tip may sound superficial, but it really helped me a lot to understand lighting, materials, composition, everything you need to get a good image, and be original. Try to
Yeah,
discover what you like, and try to put that into your renders.
100%. Thank you very much, Vlad. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you.